Ever stare at a crumbling roof, outdated equipment that's barely hanging on, or that pricey rental space and think, we need a capital campaign, but where on earth are we supposed to find a few $1 million? Well, here's a fun fact. According to the nonprofit Times, smaller nonprofits are pulling off capital campaigns once reserved for the big players, with many raising around 2 million. So today I'm teaming up with capital campaign strategist Rhonda Newman from Newman Consulting, and together we'll map out 6 beginner-proof moves that will take you from zero to ribbon cutting. Now, Rhonda and I have both spent decades helping nonprofits raise money. She's a capital campaign pro, and I've coached hundreds of founders to success. So we've got you covered every step of the way. Are you ready to trade in that leaky roof for a grand opening? Let's dive in. Now, your first move is your pre-campaign planning, and it might not sound exciting, but this step is crucial. Skipping it or rushing this phase is like building a house without a blueprint. You could try, but you're not going to like the results. And obviously, you need a strong board that's ready to lead, open doors, and yes, donate too. You also need an initial draft of your case for support. Doesn't have to be perfect yet, but strong enough to get people inspired. Now, Rhonda has some great tips on setting your working goals and crafting your project plan.
I've never met an organization, actually, Joanne, that has ever started pre-campaign planning soon enough. So that's a really essential piece of advice because campaigns have high risk and high reward, though. That's why we do them. So the point that I'm trying to make is pre-campaign planning is important. First off, make sure that you can really engage your board. And I think boards are very much like all of us, that central piece to say, the more familiar we are with something, the more we feel comfortable with it. And again, keep thinking on that concept of high risk, high reward. Often boards have some trepidation, some trepidation about this. And so it's important to keep them apprised. And not even apprised. I'm also thinking about how we can get them involved. And so it's everything from, you make sure that it's on every one of your meetings, all of your board meetings, and you're talking about it and you're talking about the project, but also the campaign. That's an important piece of this. And maybe you're finding ways for them to be involved. Like when we're going to talk about the next phase, which is really the feasibility study, maybe they've gotten people that we should be talking to. Maybe they've got friends that within their own network that they should be bringing along to us. Or even at that point, if they've got other colleagues or peers that have done a capital campaign in the last little while, why not have them come in and talk to the board? So little things like that, just to make sure that the board is prepped. Secondly, you also want to make sure that your project plan is solid. It's clear about what are we trying to accomplish. And when I say it's the what are we accomplishing, that's fine. But it's not always just a building or new technology. It's the why. Why are we trying to accomplish? What's the impact that we're trying to make? So it's important that that is clear and articulated. After that, then we're going to have a sense of, again, in this pre-planning phase, we need to have a sense of what that's going to cost. Because in order for us to go on to the next phase, which is feasibility study, it's going to cost us, and that's what we want to go out and test. But overall, what is this vision that we've got, this big vision that we've got? How is it going to change us? How is it going to change the way we do business? How is it going to change the impact on our clients? And also what's that going to cost? And then lastly, so when I say that, it's about a working goal. And years ago, I learned about this from some fellows in the industry about a working goal and a solid public goal. And at this phase, we do a working goal because it can be changed a couple of times during the campaign. And so we want to, when we go out to test this with the feasibility study phase, we have to have a goal that is the number that we're going to go and test, but not public yet.
Next up is a feasibility study that helps you figure out exactly how ready you are for a capital campaign, who your best prospects might be, and realistically, how much can you raise? It's your chance to test drive your campaign idea before publicly committing. Now, here's something a little surprising. Before you start asking people for money, you need donors who are already interested. And I know it sounds backwards, but Rhonda has guided plenty of these, so I'll let her walk you through how exactly to do this right.
Feasibility studies are a crucial part of a capital campaign. Most especially, that makes sense, especially if you don't have a history of raising a lot of money for a organization. Feasibility study is a way that you can engage your donors and test the whole project. You test the project. You test the validity or the reputation of your organization. You test, do you have those donors that are going to support you at that level? And also you test, are they interested in supporting or being ambassadors for your organization? So a feasibility study is a fundraiser's dreams, because how it kind of works is there's different pieces to this, but really it's figuring out who do we think is going to give us money, and then actually going and talking. And there's two ways of doing this. And so again, it's often in a hypothetical situation. I, donor so and so, we're thinking of doing this project. It's really exciting for us. It's going to do this, 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 and this, and we think it's going to cost us this. Because again, remember in the pre-planning phase, is we figured out these answers. So now we're actually taking the chance to engage donors early. Again, it's this feasibility study you go through, and it's often done in a questionnaire survey type format. And it can be done two ways. It can be done solely by a consultant. And so they go out and they speak to these people confidentially. The questionnaire is approved, of course, by the organization, and it can take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And you ask them, and as a consultant, I'm always on the side going, this is the due diligence of the organization. So I encourage you to be as honest and open and forthright as possible. And so sometimes donors love that they're talking to me and they can tell me all kinds of things. I don't like this. I do like this. I don't like that. Because I don't want to be talking to Joanne, who's the board chair, going, I'm sorry, she's my best friend. I didn't want to disappoint her. So that's one side of a feasibility study. It could be consultant led. And on the other side, which is more of a hybrid, it can be that the organization goes out and does the studies directly with their potential donors. And often people will just engage a consultant like me or yourself. I think you do it too, Joanne, is where we are sitting there helping them to craft the messages, the questions, and then help them at the end to go, here's, you got the data. This is what it looks like. Ultimately, a feasibility study will tell you, is your campaign viable? And it either confirms or denies the assumptions that you had with donors, and can this project go forward?
Now that you've done some planning, have your feasibility study, and some of your best prospects lined up, step 3 is getting ready to roll, and that takes a little bit more prep. You obviously need a solid committee to help you lead the charge, and your draft case for support from earlier gets a final polish here too. But here's the thing, campaign preparations go deeper than just gathering names and finishing your case. Rhonda's got the goods on the critical stuff like setting campaign policies, creating communications plan, and figuring out exactly how you'll recognize your amazing donors.
The third step in the process is campaign preparation. And this sometimes can seem a little like it can drag on, and it's some of the administrative pieces of it. But I really reinforce that this is critical to the campaign. I call this putting the tools in the toolkit. And I don't know if you've noticed, we haven't started asking for money. So this is why I'm saying capital campaigns are, they're strategic, and they're sometimes counterintuitive to what normal fundraising is all about, because you're like, well, we got to go out and ask. But honestly, if you're not ready to ask, you can always be leaving money on the table. You can always be doing things not to your best interests. In this, we've already done the pre-planning, we've done the feasibility, we found out that now we have donors that are interested in supporting us and interested in our project and interested in helping us to be ambassadors and be part of a campaign cabinet. And this is a very traditional route where in this phase of the campaign preparation, we recruit our campaign cabinet. And so this is a group of volunteers who are willing to open up their networks on your behalf. And so this is key, because for each of us, our networks are only as big as our networks. And so, but it's when we've come together, that power of many minds and many activities and networks, that's where the success and the magic actually comes from. So we do that during this prep phase, or during this campaign prep phase. We also make sure, when I talk about tools in the toolkit, we really solidify that case for support. And if you remember back in the very beginning, in our pre-planning, we did a draft saying this is what we want to do and why. And then again, during that feasibility we've heard some feedback. So now at this stage, this is the time that we actually go along and we implement what we've learned from our donors. And I've had situations where that's changed completely, and sometimes it's just little tweaks, but it's that, again, getting that input that's really helped us to get to this point. So you finalize your draft, your case for support. From there, we also make sure all those dreaded things like your database is ready to go, that you have the materials in it the names, the addresses, it's nice and clean. We make sure that we have our policies in place. So these are things like, who will we accept a gift from? Who will we not? How long will it take for us to do a tax receipt back to them? Sort of simple things. And then a few other harder things too, like how are we going to recognize our donors? What are if it's at Capitol buildings, lots of times we've got, there's rooms, there's et cetera, there's arenas, but maybe it's about programs. Maybe it's about we're doing a technology or a capacity building campaign. It's not always just about a particular bricks and mortar. So there's that element needs to be discussed in this phase too. And often those things go to the board to make sure that that is approved. You don't want to be out there finding out that as a fund development individual, that you're offering the naming rights to your new building for a fraction of what it could be, or that your board didn't want you to.
So next up is the quiet phase of fundraising. Now, why is it called quiet? Because at this point, you're not shouting your campaign from the rooftops yet. Instead, you're quietly raising about 50 to 70% or more of your goal by securing your largest gifts first. Why does this matter so much? Because people love backing a winner. Starting your public campaign with big gifts already committed gives other donors confidence and momentum. And Rhonda's going to walk you through exactly how to secure these game-changing early donations and how this quiet approach sets you up for success.
So with that all in place, we're now finally getting close to asking for money. And so this being what we call the quiet phase. Now, the quiet phase is often a bit of a misnomer for people because it's like, well, what do you mean? Can't be like we're asking for money. How does this? Quiet phase just means you're talking about the project all the time, even in the media, everything that you can. Talk about the project, talk about how it's going to make changes in your community and what it's going to do for the patrons that you serve. What we mean by this is the phase that you're asking for donations one-on-one. You're not going to see, hey, a big sign as you're driving down the highway, donate today, press the button. That happens in the public phase, and that's when we invite everybody to participate. But the quiet phase is very targeted. And so now that we have our campaign cabinet team together, we're going to sit down and start identifying who our prospects. We're going to go, who do we have a link to? Who's interested in us, and what's their ability to give? And when the team has come together and I call it crowdsourcing, or we're brainstorming who it is our connections are, and that's done in a group environment, plus some research done to say, here's some list of prospects that are actually, we think, are interested. Now, I'm going to say we think are interested because this is when we start to hit the road. And this is where we make sure that our team, our campaign cabinet team, is trained and they are learning how to ask for money, because we never, asking for money is very much like dating, right, Joanne? You don't go out and just see someone and go, hey, I think I'm going to ask that person to marry me. It's through a series. And so, again, we think they might give to us, but are they really? We qualify them. Are they really the right people to give to us? Maybe they've got something else that they really care about most. We bless and release. Then once we've qualified somebody, so we've identified them first, then we qualify them, then we actually cultivate them. If they actually are a potential prospect for us, we cultivate them and we spend real time really engaging who they are. I haven't asked for money yet here. Only when we have permission. And it looks something like this. After we've spent some time cultivating those relationships, then we say, do we have your permission? We'd like to put a proposal together for your consideration. That moves us into the next phase, which is a donor circle, which many of you, I'm sure, have seen, which is the solicitation phase, the one that everybody's so scared of. And yet it's in this whole phase of this quiet stage. It's the easiest. Okay, I'm not sure if it's easiest, but it's the shortest amount of time because it's one meeting, and it is learning how to be quiet, how to make the ask, and then sit on your hands. And so that's the solicitation. And then, of course, there's the stewardship. And so that's all part of what the donor circle, the donor cultivation cycle is all about. And that's something that you want to spend time teaching your campaign cabinet about, so that when they do go out, that it is them taking the most mindful approach for themselves, so that they don't have that anxiety again about, I'm asking for money, because a lot of people are very scared for asking for money. But when you do that process, it doesn't need to be so scary. It's not about rejection. And very, very, very rarely have you ever got to the point where you've asked for money and you've asked for their permission to ask for money, and then you ask for money and they go no. Because if you've done it right, you're going to go in being really clear that this is something that they want to, that they feel passionate about and that they want to invest in. In addition to preparing our campaign cabinet team in this phase, we also want to be asking internally. So this is where we're talking to our board, our volunteers, our staff. We're asking for their support as well. And then one thing that's very important that we mentioned is, as I was talking about we don't go public until a certain point. We typically advise to not go public until you're between 60 to 70% of your goal. And I just wanted to add to that, because what that means is we've gone through that prospect list that we've talked to. We've done as many number, face-to-face talk, asks as possible. I'd love to say all of them if we can, before we start going out and putting it all over social, putting it all over with a button to donate now. Because a couple of things really important is it's nice to know that if we get to that public and everybody wants to do a launch, so you do our campaign launch, but it's really nice when you're doing that launch that you're recognizing the people that have stepped up to the plate as those lead donors. And I'm going to say, honestly, your first 20 gifts are often more than half of your campaign goal. So when you have that launch of that public phase, it's really important. It's a nice way to have your lead donors there and recognize them. And I'm also going to say another important feature is you want to make sure you've asked them all here. Give them the opportunity who are closest to your organization to really support you. But also, you don't want to leave money on the table so that all of a sudden your donor that, oh, we haven't talked to, they've been here, they've been there, we haven't talked to them, goes, oh my gosh, it's my favorite organization. I'm kind of disappointed they didn't ask me, but I'll tell you what, here's $500 or $50 or something, that when you're not asking one-on-one, then you're not making that intentional response.
Hang tight. Just a quick moment to thank our sponsors, Click and Pledge, because they get nonprofit fundraising. So whether you're hosting a Zoom event, or launching a peer-to-peer campaign, or setting up your donor-friendly pages, Click and Pledge makes it easy to handle it all without the headaches. It is the all-in-one fundraising platform. And here's what I love. Transparent pricing, 48-hour payout, seamless Salesforce integration, all backed by top-notch security. It's the platform I trust, and it makes my life so much easier. So check them out and see how Click and Pledge can transform your fundraising. All right, back to the video. All right, now it's finally time to go public. This is the part most people think of when they hear capital campaign. The community launch, the buzz, maybe even a big thermometer on your website. But here's the truth. If you've done the quiet phase right, the public phase is more about building excitement and inviting everyone to be part of the finish line. Now's when you engage your broader base, monthly donors, volunteers, local businesses, and offer them a meaningful way to contribute. This phase is great for events, peer-to-peer campaigns, and those final push opportunities. Rhonda's going to share how to keep the momentum high, communicate progress, and turn this final push into a celebration of community generosity.
Finally, we're at the public phase. So we are all welcome because everybody loves to do the launch. And so we've got the ribbon cutting and the thermometer, if you want a thermometer, but please don't put it out ahead of time with this. And making sure that it's mostly full. This is when we are inviting, in the public phase, we really are inviting everybody to be a part of your project and to make a commitment. And it can be anything from whatever anybody can support, what they can give. It could be $5. It could be $500. But this is where we're talking what I call the broad-based public. We've already done all the individuals. Now we're inviting everybody to be a part of it. So it often looks like things like special events. If you're going to have a gala or a dinner or something that I hope is very mission related, an event that is related to your mission. It could be mail outs, to your community. It could be mail drop. We've had all kinds of interesting things where, put little flyers put into the town bills or the utility bills, whatever it is that we could say, hey, please give to us. And I'm honored to also communicate, though, that this is the time that your campaign awareness is at its highest. So this is also where you're launching your communications plan. So now it's on social media. please give. Now you see the billboard when you're driving on the highway and it's got, here's our phone number and here's where we are and this is the impact. And now you see the ads that are on the newspaper or the local news channel. And now you've got your executive director and board chair on your morning show. But this and everything's at its height. You want to make sure again that you are close, that you can get over that goal, because this is where you're going to get all of the majority of your gifts, but much, much smaller gifts.
Now, here's the part most people forget. The final phase is the follow through. This is where you report back to donors, show them the impact of their gifts, and keep those relationships strong. Stewardship isn't just about being polite. It's how you turn campaign donors into lifelong supporters. This is your moment to celebrate them and keep them in the loop and invite them into what's next.
Stewardship work is probably the most important part that your organization can take ownership for after a capital campaign. Campaigns create new donors. They create new friends for your organization. Often too, most people are taking in pledges. And so if you're not communicating with your donors and you're not reassuring them of the investment that they've made, then you're likely to lose them, or you're more probable to lose them. Joanne, you know how many nonprofits are out there today, like just hundreds of thousands, actually. And so I hate to use the word in competition, but just know that they're not your donors, they're donors. And you want to make sure that you are keeping that affinity from them to us. So it's important to do stewardship. I always recommend an organization look at a stewardship plan so that they're consciously mapping out how they're keeping in contact with the donors who have been supporting them, how to keep them engaged, how to make sure that they are getting their needs met through the investment that they've given to your organization to carry forward.
Big thank you, Rhonda, for sharing your wisdom. Capital campaigns can feel totally overwhelming, but when you break it down, it is doable. Now, up next is a video on landing those big gifts, major giving. So if you're ready to go after those transformational donations, don't miss it. Thanks for watching. And if this helped take some of the mystery out of capital campaigns, give it a like, leave a comment, or share it with a fellow nonprofit who's staring at their own crumbling roof. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And I'll see you next week.